See, what is it that makes a man a man? What is it that makes human beings human? There's only two things. One is that he is free to choose to be rational or not. Right? So when people say, hey, a man's born free, right? Man's free. Yes, he's free, but that's only half the sentence. He's free to do something. That is, he's free to either use his intelligence or not to use it. That's what he's free to do. And most men that you look at today are choosing not to think. More importantly, a lot of men that you see in this today's world, the human race, is choosing not to feel.
That's right.
If you want to split hairs about it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But here's the problem with that. That which makes you truly human, if you decide not to do it anymore, for whatever reason, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why a human being might choose to murder themselves, as we've spoken about in previous shows, or not feel, or not have emotion, or throw emotion away, or even not be conscious, or not rational. Every person has a reason for doing that. But just in general, let's just say that if you do choose to not face yourself, or because you're so self-sadistic, you've literally murdered your own emotions, or whatever terminology you want to use, you've done it because you want to avoid pain. Psychologists know this. It's a common problem. We have darker emotions. We have things that cause us great emotional distress. So we stop being introverted. We don't look at ourselves. We don't face ourselves, and we block it, either by constantly working, you see, or running in the world, or taking pharmaceutical drugs, or whatever. The 101 ways we avoid ourselves. We've talked about this in previous shows. We call it the inauthentic life. However, there's a problem. The person who prevents themselves feeling pain, he also desensitizes himself to feeling pleasure too.
That's right.
Because you can't split it, you know. If you cut yourself off, if you dumb down your feeling, hey, I don't want to feel any pain, unfortunately with that comes a slow desensitization to pleasure also. Now, of course, that affects your relationships. It affects your life. You don't smell the roses anymore. You don't see the sunset anymore. You're not open to the finer human feelings towards animals and, nature and to human beings. So what we're seeing now is a generation, a youth generation, and generally a middle class, it's basically a pandemic in the world, is that man, in order to run away from those emotions that he thinks are painful, meaning his shadow self, his dark side of himself, has actually made a mistake and closed himself off to feeling entirely. So he's wrapped in cellophane. And if you're not feeling pleasure and pain, in fact, if you're not feeling at all and you become so desensitized, haven't you then ceased to be a human being? Because that's what makes a human being tick, is that he can feel, he can think. If you stop doing that because you were trying to save yourself pain, you now become so desensitized that you've stopped working on the human level altogether. And now the only things that turn you on have to be extreme versions of sensual fulfillment, meaning that the stimuli that needs to come in now needs to be so gratuitous, you see.
Intensified.
Yes, exactly. And aren't we seeing that exact symptom?
That's right,
Jaded face. You just need to walk past people in the mall and you just, oh my God, it's worse than the Night of the Living Dead. Soulless, empty, sense-infatuated, utterly, dispossessed, soulless people. And it's because they've run away from what Jung called the darker emotion. What did Jung say? Man will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing his own soul.
Sure, that's right.
And then in my, web stream, I amended the quote to say, man will do anything, no matter how absurd, to stop facing his shadow self. Because it's avoidance of legitimate suffering that has caused all of this. So tomorrow, if we do end up in this technotronic world, you see, it will not be because, as you say, somebody has come to take your soul. It's because you've given up your soul. You yourself have offered it on a plate to anyone who'll buy it. You can't blame, the Nephilim of the Illuminati for buying what you sold them.
That's right.
If you've handed up your spirit, go, Doc, life's too painful, it's a bummer, I don't like that, or, she broke my heart, or he broke my heart, or life's a bitch, I don't like to work. And for whatever reason, you're not dealing with your inauthenticity, you haven't taken responsibility for your life, you're not moving from a passion, then don't blame those who pick up the garbage later on. If you have trashed your soul, how can you blame, it's like that Star Wars, the little guys who run around picking up all the trash, those little cyborgs. How can you blame them from going and, selling you on the black market if you're pieces of junk, scrap metal?
Sure, that's right.
When you abdicate right rulership of yourself, when you cannot take responsibility, when you do not own your so-called shadow side, when you do not know how to manage, your own life and take the good and the bad together, then you will breed these Orwellian, dictators who are now well and truly in power. We call them neocons or whatever we want. But this is an old story going back to the Roman Empire, but beyond. It certainly is a story of the Industrial Revolution, you see.
Hey, I just want to interject there because you mentioned the neocons, and isn't it interesting that if you actually go into Wikipedia and type in the Vulcans, you actually get the Bush administration, basically, the Condoleezza Rice and a few others that actually refer to themselves as the Vulcans. And again, this is, of course, about controlling or almost removing to some degree the emotional,
Absolutely. This is a perfect example of what is the Vulcans, a super advanced technotronic race who literally turned off the emotion switch. They sat down, they methodically and philosophically worked it out that emotions are troublesome. And they turned off that, dial. I believe this is what these Nephilim controllers of the world had done on their own planet. I believe that that's what they did. They had good reasons for doing it. They really worked this out mathematically. They sat down and they all decided. And so now they're down here with us, the red men. We're running around sort of, they're children, unruly kids who haven't quite got it yet. But with their assistance, with their midwifing, you see, we'll get it. And they reward those, you see, who become more scientific, more left brain, colder. You see, these are the people in our society who are rewarded instantly. As soon as you operate from that, my goodness, you're a general overnight. You'll be the head of a corporation. So we wonder, the other guy sits there and wonders, why do all the evil, why these guys, why does the world operate like this? How come they have no humanity? Well, maybe because we are not only being run by people, we're not only being guided and ruled by soulless, anti-human, inorganic souls who've lost all of their sense of, feeling, who are extremely necrotic, but maybe the highest agenda is that we are meant to follow suit. Now, my message is, look, that might sound really obnoxious to most people and absolutely horrible, but is it? If your neighbor and people in your family and people you work with have become so ghost-like in their own shell, if they've become so disembodied within their own being, so ungrounded, if they have become so estranged from their own souls, if they're living in persona world, are you going to then tell me that they don't need the handrails, you see, that's provided by that Leviathan? I guarantee you they're going to. I'm telling you that it's happening now. The record levels of drugs, you see, that are being taken, both illegal and legal.
That's right. That's right.
So we may not ever see utopia. I have no doubts about it. That we're not heading for any utopia. The Piscean age is closing, but I don't see anybody doing any spiritual homework that should end up. I think we should divest ourselves of a lot of these illusions. I'm not a doom prophet, but I also do believe we have to see reality.
That's right.
Not our fake idea of the reality or some new age claptrap. We have to face the fact that people are not doing their inner homework. They're running headlong from the authentic life. Through the primal guilt and things we've talked about in other shows.